Welcome back once again to Forbes Sports Money, presented by Fox Business Network. I'm Bob Lorenz. Well, later in the show, we'll discuss some of the richest team owners on the Forbes Billionaires list. But first, we'd like to share with you a story about a regular Joe who made it big. Joe Murphy was a Massachusetts teacher and baseball coach who started a small business out of his parents' garage. His company has been enjoying success even in these hard times. And in Joe Murphy's story, we have found the keys to victory that any entrepreneur can use. Joe Murphy has always been drawn to two things, baseball and helping children. So it only made sense that he would choose a career in education as a teacher and baseball coach.
I always loved to work with kids, worked at a lot of camps. It was kind of something that drew me to it. So yeah, always thought, I could teach and I could coach baseball, and that would be the plan.
But sometimes life has its own plans. You see, Joe's a can-do kind of guy, and when he ran into a problem that every baseball and softball coach has ever had to face, he decided he was going to be the one to fix it.
Being up in the Northeast, obviously we get hit with a lot of bad winter, and for the preseason of baseball, anybody that is up here knows that you basically are starting baseball in the winter.
The problem was bad weather.
We had a great gym, but I wanted my pitchers to pitch off of a raised surface or a mound, and so it just started me looking for to do that. So as I was teaching at the same time, we had a wood shop, and I wanted to make a few mounds out of wood. We didn't get the okay for that because they didn't want them to scratch the floor of the existing gymnasium, so I had to get creative. I remember taking all these wood mounds out of the closets, weighing hundreds and hundreds of pounds. It was nothing. You didn't want to be the guy that had to go and grab the mounds. So I said, if I was going to make this and I can't make it out of wood, I needed to make it out of something lightweight and durable. And so my family had a lot to do with the startup.
He came home and talked about a mound that was very, very large, heavy, bulky, and the kids can't move it. It's got to be a better way of making it. So I says, well, go figure it out. And he came back about 3 weeks later. We was standing in the hallway just outside the garage, and he put the plan to me, and I said, that sounds like a good plan.
So we came up with the idea of using a foam substrate, basically a high-density foam, to be the form that gave us the big shape. And foam in general is fairly lightweight, so then came the act of making it durable. And it took us some time, it was taking weeks to, and I was just kind of doing it for fun. We just needed a couple of mounds for the preseason, and that was my whole intention. But I kind of got into it.
Joe's father, uncle, and cousin are all in construction-related businesses, and together they developed a method of making foam structures that were made strong and skid-proof with the application of a chemical coating. He added artificial turf to the top, and voila, he had a finished product. But was it any good?
I didn't know until someone used it. And, I put it down, I pitched off of it, but I wanted to get the kids to use it. Once they did, their reaction was, this is great if asked, or no reaction at all. They just pitched. I think that's when I had the moment of, this could go beyond this the one or two that we've made, and maybe try to commercialize it a little bit. I showed it to a couple of people, and what tended to happen was that people were interested right off the back of my truck. Can I have that? We'll just take that one if you want. At that point, we were looking at it. I was not looking at it as a business. I was just happy that someone liked something that I made.
When the mounds were seen by the local schools, there started to be a trickle for demand. Extra income for a school teacher is always welcome, and in order to get the new business off the ground, Joe found cheap labor and overhead. He set up an office in his parents' house, constructed more mounds in the garage, hired his mother to man the phones, and recruited the teacher in the room next to his.
I would see the mounds on top of his pickup truck, and I would ask him about it, and then eventually we got to the point where he needed some help. The first job that I did for Joe, he asked me to help him with some foam. Little did I know an 18-wheeler would be arriving, and it was very early in the morning. It was about 4:30 in the morning. This is before we were teaching for the day, and that was really the start of my involvement with Joe.
Well, in the beginning, it was like one phone call every 2 or 3 days. You know, that first check that came in was like the big excitement. But then it just started growing and getting busier and busier. And then I was actually needing to be there.
We saw the volume that was coming at us. And I, at that point, had to make a decision. You know, I was newly married, you know, my benefits. There was a lot of decisions that I had to make, whether I take this full time, whether I gradually go into it now, or just kind of keep it status quo and see, and just see where it goes. My friends who weren't involved in the business or anything, they said, so you're gonna quit teaching and make pitching mounts, huh? You know, and it's kind of, you know, all in good fun, but it was like, you know, what are you doing? You know, you got a great job, you're a teacher, you got your summers off. What are you doing?
What Joe was doing was following his entrepreneurial spirit. His ProMounds were just the beginning, and when sales began to plateau, he recognized new opportunities opening up to him when his customers started saying,
"We really love the mounds, you know, we got them. We don't really need any more, you know, budget, but listen, can you get me an L screen? Can you get me a batting cage? Can you get me whatever filled the blank in?" And at first I said, no, you know, I don't have the ability. You know, we're making pitching mounds, we're not doing that stuff. And finally, you know, one time someone asked me for something and I just stopped saying no. And I just started saying yes. So we started going after indoor facilities. We became turf experts. We own a 30,000 square foot turf facility now in Georgia that we have the capability of distributing. The other thing that an indoor facility needs is netting. Netting and turf are our biggest product lines. And those open doors for us on the other fronts as far as the product lines go.
Joe's company took off, making approximately $50,000 in their first year and doubling revenues in the years following. His on-deck sports company just passed the $5 million mark, and his goal is to hit $10 million within the next couple of years. He's even partnered with Jenny Finch to sell special lines of mounds and other products. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as a life without regrets. Joe left his first passion, education, but even in his new life, he's still able to have an effect on the children he cared for.
Every year I go back to the school that I taught at, and they have a career day where they bring in people from the community and talk. When I go in there and I get to be in front of the classroom and talk to the kids, it's, you know, not that I don't miss it other days, but that's really when, you know, it kind of grabs me a little bit.
He had a great way about him. He formed great relationships with the students. The students came to really respect Joe. And even a few months ago, a high school student, now a senior, chose Joe when he was being inducted in National Honor Society. You had to pick someone, you know, from elementary or middle school. And the student out of probably 30 or 40 teachers chose Joe. I thought that was particularly meaningful because Joe had been out of teaching for a while, but he impacted students in a profound way.
I enjoyed it very much. It was a big passion of mine. But this has taken kind of over that, the timing and whatnot, so it's been quite a ride.
Up next, who are the richest team owners in the U.S. and around the globe? You'll find out when we return on Forbes Sports Money, presented by Fox Business Network.